And so it is, we do welcome Lori Franz, Coptic minister, retired also from the Mott Community College in Flint, Michigan, after having spent 20 years in the Michigan school system as a high school teacher and community college instructor. She has studied metaphysics since the mid-1980s and became a Coptic minister in 2007, which doesn't seem that long ago, but the time certainly does fly. She facilitates daily study groups via email on a course. Sign up for that. We're starting in January virtually, and it does continue. And she does continue to study non-dualism and the meaning of oneness from many traditions around the world. Tonight's topic is welcome home as we enjoy this holiday season, Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, and more.
So, welcome home, everyone.
Yay.
Yes, and some of us are probably thinking about actually going home, so to speak, to spend time with relatives, friends, loved ones for Christmas. And that's pretty normal. But our holiday vacation plans are not exactly what I'm referring to here. So the question is, where is home? And even more important, what is home? Yeah, that's the big question. And how do we get there? So there can be a much deeper meaning involved with the idea of going home. So to begin to embrace a deeper meaning of home, let's first look at some insights from our wonderful master Hamid Bey, who has some interesting comments in lesson 19, The Realm of the Abstract World. And in the section called Realm of the Spirit, he says, in the realm of the spirit or the abstract world, nothing is visible to our five senses. There is a law which divides the visible and invisible worlds, the law of Maya. Maya means the law of illusion. So first, it's essential for us to understand that the law of illusion, while we seemingly abide here in physical bodies, and what that law is. And Hamid Bey continues here with this. To those living in the objective world, everything seems real. What is in the abstract world seems unreal. We are facing the visible world of illusion, the law of Maya. And we are not permitted to see, hear, touch, taste, or smell anything pertaining to that invisible world. We see nothing, we know nothing beyond that line of demarcation. So what do? He asks us. How do we get beyond the visible world of illusion? Perhaps the answer can be found in lesson 17, a section called The Formula of Creation. Hamid Bey mentions here, there is no separation, as he is explaining the meaning of the macrocosmic and what I would refer to, and the microcosmic world, and what I would refer to here as non-duality, the macrocosmic, and the duality of the material world of form or illusion, the microcosmic. In our dualistic microcosmic world, there are separate bodies, separate people, individuals. And in the microcosmic non-dual world, there is no separation, as there is only God, love. And this is what Hamid Bey says. There is no separation, as separation is an illusion of consciousness. We have taken cognition of a force without realization of the act, which without realization of the cause. It is because we do not see the cause that we say we are separated. Like God is one thing and we are another. But the truth is that we are never separated. And he adds this: you can feel your unity with God and become one with him if you completely neutralize your five senses in meditation. For then you become part of the universal consciousness, or part of the macrocosmic. But then, of course, after that, you will probably take cognition again of your senses and become part of the microcosmic, the individual, the personality, the entity, the body. Each time that you make your entrance into the macrocosmic consciousness or into the invisible, you strengthen your position as a spiritual entity. So that's a really good point. And good to know that through our meditation, we can grow as a spiritual entity. And then we begin to recognize that all of our fellow travelers are part of the whole, part of the macrocosmic and infinite love. And Hamid Bey also addresses a concept he calls the bridging of the seeming gap, or the gap between God, love, and you and me and everyone. In lesson 46, he says, in this lesson, I shall make an effort to show you there is no separation between cosmic universal intelligence and individual human intelligence, so that you may reach reconciliation by bridging the seeming gap between God and you. There is no separation, and the illusion is caused only by proportion of expression. So that phrase, bridging the seeming gap, is crucial for us to understand in that lesson. In our microcosmic dualistic world, we see a gap or separation between God, love, and us as individual entities. But in truth, there is no gap. There is no separation. So when we say that we are coming home to God or love, what we really need to understand is that we are already home. We never left our home in truth, because our home is God. We think we left home, but only in the illusion of this world. So in this world, we feel as if we need to find our way back to God. But Hamid Bey tells us there is no gap. There is no separation between God, love, and each of us. We are all part of God or love. And the analogy I like to use is that we are all a drop of love in an ocean of love, or the macrocosmic. That ocean of love is our home, which we never left in truth. So our home is not the place or house where we grew up, where our families are now, and not a physical place at all. Our home is the simple understanding of who we truly are and have always been, part of God or love. And Hamid Bey gives us even more insights into the ultimate truth of who we are in lesson 100, the realistic visible world versus the invisible world. In this section, he says that we must develop an understanding of who we are. He explains this when he says, again, there is no separation. When Jesus the Christ spoke, he made no differentiation between himself and you and me. He said, you can even do greater things. He was not speaking of Jesus, but of the Christ, which is within each one of us. Christ pertains to spiritual consciousness, which is symbolic of spiritual realization. The day you realize the Christ, you will realize that you are more than an individual ego, but a spiritual entity as well. So in our realization that we are more than an individual ego, then we are using our minds to go in the right direction. And this section continues by saying this: God's greatest gift to man was that he gave us the privilege of developing an instrument by which we can operate in intelligence and reason, whereby we can look within ourselves and see. We have been using this intelligence exteriorly and are always looking outside of ourselves. This means we have directed the power of God in the wrong direction, which is the cause of our suffering today. If we would realize our true identity and properly use the power of God, the whole earth would become a heaven, a paradise. Wow. The whole earth will become a heaven, a paradise, when we realize our true identity. So now each one of us should consider the real answer to the question, what am I, or who is the I who might be seeking to return home? So let's look at that through another great analogy on this concept of our acceptance of our true identity, which is embodied in the biblical story of the prodigal son, which Jesus used in one of his parables, where he was attempting to explain to everyone who they really are. Jesus taught in parables because the depth of his teaching could be quite difficult for many of his followers. And if you remember this parable, the son of a generous father requests all of his money from his inheritance, and he takes off to squander it in a very worldly setting. He squanders it all away, and then a famine hits the area where he is, and he takes a job feeding pigs. And he is so hungry, he wouldn't have minded eating the scraps of the husks that were being fed to the pigs. He finally decides to return home and ask his father if he could work there as a servant. So he journeys home, and his father welcomes his son with open arms and much love, and has a beautiful celebration for his son's return. The father loves his son unconditionally. So in this world, like the prodigal son, we are coming to the awareness that what we thought would bring us happiness has only brought us emptiness and suffering. We are realizing that we have made a mistake. We have gone in the wrong direction. Our mistake has not changed God's love for us. And it is God's will in infinite love that we remember that we are one with him, one with love, and then we have bridged the seeming gap. So now, as you are preparing to spend the Christmas holidays with your friends and loved ones, don't forget to see each and every individual whom you come into contact with as the light and love and treasure of God. Each person is a drop of love in that ocean of love we can call home. So the next question I have for you this evening is, what gifts will you bring your family, your friends, or whomever you might be sharing this holiday with? And I'm not referring here to worldly gifts, but rather the gifts that emanate from your mind and heart. So you definitely do not want to be bringing gifts of judgment, of fear, of negativity to your family and loved ones. But rather bring the gifts of love, of joy, with a total recognition of your oneness with all that is, and your total oneness with every brother and sister, every person who appears to be an individual identity here in the illusion. So in reality, each person is part of the whole. And every time you give this recognition, you fill your treasure house full of grace and love. And that doesn't mean you have to say this verbally to those around you, but just use the power of your mind to perceive the love and light in every individual who crosses your path. And this glorious perception is your gift to all your brothers and sisters, and every gift you give is extended back to you in love. And I'd like to add here a quote from Course in Miracles, which is lesson 316. All gifts I give my brothers are my own. And it says, His grace is given me in every gift a brother has received throughout all time and past all time as well. My treasure house is full, and angels watch its open doors, and not one gift is lost, and only more are added. Let me come to where my treasures are and enter in where I am truly welcome and at home among the gifts that God has given me. So now I can say, welcome home, all you prodigal children, for the wonderful recognition of your wholeness, your oneness with love, your oneness with God, with all that is. This is home. Home is simply the recognition of the joy, the love, the bliss of who and what you truly are. And as you recognize this, you recognize the wholeness in all your brothers and sisters. Your gift to them is a gift to you. So thank you and welcome home, all you wonderful children of God. Thank you. Bless you.
Thank you, Lori. Welcome home, home for the holidays. No place like home. At the bottom of your email salutations, you have a quote from A Course in Miracles. I asked you about 3 months ago what it meant, but I couldn't remember what it was, so I have it in front of me again. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Does it have to do with the microcosm and macrocosm you touched on tonight?
Yes, it does. And that is part of the introduction to A Course in Miracles. You can't threaten anything that doesn't really exist. So if and only the real exists. So what is the real? The real is us as the wonderful treasure children of God, that we are all part of God. That's the reality. That's the non-duality of our real selves. And we're not individual selves. We are just part of that whole. We're like that drop of love in the ocean of love. And the last part of that you had just quoted there ends, herein lies the peace of God. And that means, of course, you find peace in your realization that nothing on this planet, in this world, can hurt you. Nothing. Because number one, this body, this seeming body, isn't actually real. And Hamid Bey tells us that. The abstract world versus the individual world that we think we see.
Yet it feels so real.
Yes. Well, even modern science, I don't know, are you all familiar with the whole science aspect of this in quantum physics? It's that the world is a hologram. It's a hologram we've created with our consciousness. That's a little difficult for a lot of people to take that in. Everything that's going on in our minds.
Hologram.
Hologram.
It's kind of goes with quantum physics then, doesn't it?
That's where the whole idea comes from. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Lori, that was purely wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, John.
Absolutely magnificent. It's as if Hamid Bey was overlighting you.
Oh, that's lovely. Thank you.
You certainly gave you a good reference material.
There is no separation. That's I love that line because he keeps repeating that line. Yeah. We are not separate from God. We are part of God. And that's our reality.
I love your talk tonight, Lori. It was really great. I love your sign too. Welcome home. There's a song by Simon Garfunkel. Homeward bound. I wish I was homeward bound.
Just gotta figure out he's already there, right?
Mhm. We always say he. Well, God, there's no gender. There's so many things about illusion and real. What's real? It really plays a mind game with you.
It does, and God is referred to in the Bible, of course, as the Father, and we we are sort of taught early on to think of God as this old guy with a beard up in the sky. Yeah. Right?
What about Mary?
Bob Huntington always used to say, God does not look like Carl Franklin.
Oh, you mean he doesn't look like Santa Claus?
No. But yet he is Santa Claus, right?
Constantly
He's
giving
kinda
us
like
gifts
he's
of
that-
love. Yeah.
He is
Yeah, man.
kind of that all love figure at Christmas
man.
time.
Yep. And all year round, right? That's great.
I know, Lori, you and I've had this conversation before, nothing real exists. And I have such a hard time with that.
Nothing unreal.
Because this chair I'm sitting on, it's real, because otherwise I'd be on the floor, right? It's hard to think that quantum physics says it doesn't exist. I don't know.
If you really want to get into that, I really suggest you go to YouTube and type in the world is a hologram, and you will see lots of scientific information out there. One from a physicist named Leonard Susskind. He's got some really interesting information out there that's worth taking the time to listen to.
Maybe these people are using that other 90% of their brain. They've tapped into that, because I'm just in that 10%. I mean, I can accept the idea, but I can't quite grasp it.
Yeah, the closest that I've ever come to really understanding that is just thinking about dreams, because when you're in a dream, it definitely feels real.
Oh, it does.
And when you're in the dream, your normal life or the physical life seems like a dream. But then we wake up from that dream, and then we wake up into this dream, and it's like, well, which dream is real?
And actually neither one, right?
Right. Right.
Yeah, it is very difficult for us to wrap our our minds around that whole concept. But scientifically, it's out there. If you want to, look at the science part.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then you can even just look at Hamid Bey, because that's what he was teaching,
Mhm.
How did people walk on water? How did Jesus walk on water?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the only time I do it's when it's frozen.
Because you've both changed your vibration, and that's the bottom line. It's all vibration. Nancy,
Right.
Yeah.
you're solid and the chair is solid, so you're able to sit on it only because you're vibrating at a certain rate of energy.
Okay.
If the chair vibrated more slowly, you'd fall right down to the floor. It's the cooperation. But I must admit, it is much easier for me to see myself as part of the ocean of love when we're all together at these meetings.
Right.
When you go to your family and you deal with sisters and grandchildren, and then it's a little bit more difficult for me to grasp that. But it's being in your head and getting it into your heart. So
Yeah, I really recommend you see all of your relatives and whoever you might be hanging out with. Just it is like a bubble of love, just a bubble of love around them.
it
Yeah.
went quite well last night, and so
That's great.
it's all good.
Good.
That's great.
So is everything real when we go home, Lori? I would think it would be. So is it, we look back at this illusion that we're living in right now and say, oh, now I see why, and for the greater purpose of why we came here.
Yeah. So if you're just if you're in that ocean of love, there's nothing material in that ocean. It's just love. So
When you take your last breath, Lori, go on, explain.
well, you
Oh,
step
leave the body?
you've probably for instance, Anita Murjani is
Yeah.
one example of somebody who passed over, died, and then came back, and she has some wonderful story about seeing everything there that was going on in the room at the time, and that's that soul is not material, not a body, but it's real. That's our reality. That makes sense.
One of the speakers at the conference that we're putting together, PMH Atwater, she has interviewed about 5,000 people who have had that experience. And so she's really collected a lot of information and evidence about the similarities that everyone has with that experience. So it's interesting information.
She herself has had, I think it's what she said, is that she had 3 NDEs, near-death experiences like in 3 months. So I mean, did God get your attention? I'd say yes, sure.
You know that song we sang in school, and sometimes as adults, row, row, row your boat gently down the stream, merrily, merrily, life is but a dream. And then not only we just sing that, we sing it in rounds. So it's life and we're singing it. I mean, that just brings out a whole new meaning, doesn't it?
Yeah, very, very well said. Yeah.
That's a good reference. Yeah. Life is but a dream.
Any other comments or?
Some wonderful theories talked about tonight. Very, very advanced. It's almost like we've been elevated to a higher consciousness because of the collective perspective of God. And such a wonderful group of people have come tonight.
So would you say when we pass, then we've dropped our materialism, we've dropped our shell, and we go into that ocean of spirituality and love. And that is real, correct? That's what you're trying to say, is that is not the illusion. That is real.
Yeah, the ocean of love, it's not a place at all.
Right.
It's beyond words. And that's all I can say about that. And I think we probably can all understand that it's beyond words,
Mhm.
beyond our ability to describe it intellectually.
Mhm.
I'd call it a state of consciousness, Laurie.
Yeah,
We all share, and we combine it together, we all share it, yes.
yes. A higher state of consciousness.
Experiential, yeah, you bet.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Beyond our consciousness, which the science says that it is consciousness that's creating the world of physicality. But beyond that, at a higher level, there is a higher consciousness beyond our mind consciousness. I mean,
Mhm.
if you get what I'm saying.
So in this sea of love that there's the collective souls of infinite souls is part of the oneness, right? I guess I'm still looking at individuality as we're all individual now in this physical body, but there's individual souls on the other side is one collective consciousness. I guess I'm trying to separate the two yet, and maybe it's just not that way.
It's difficult to explain, but we talk about dimensions.
Mhm.
This is the third dimension, and then we talk about the fourth dimension, the fifth dimension, and then go beyond that, 6, 7, 8, whatever dimensions. It's like, okay, and even the idea of reincarnation, that we come back, we reincarnate into another body. And why do we do that? Well, maybe there's something we still have to learn. And this is our classroom here. And you've probably heard that expression before. This is a classroom. That's what Earth is, a classroom. It's a learning experience. And then at some point, we don't come back anymore, right?
Mhm.
Because we graduated. Yay! Have a graduation celebration.
So what Mike was saying just a moment ago, one makes me think of this whole thing about the holographic concept. And I think this kind of helps piece things together as far as the individuality versus the global ocean or the universal ocean. And the reason why they use the word holographic is because if you take a picture with a piece of holographic film, just the way the technology of that works, it's like if you look at the Zoom window right now, if you've got the gallery view up like I do, you see everybody in their little squares across the screen. Well, if I took a picture of that with a piece of holographic film and then project that film onto a screen, then I would see the entire picture just as it is now. But if I try to cut that film up into like 20 different pieces, each one of those pieces can be projected onto the screen and show the entire full image. It wouldn't be as detailed, but the full image is there. And it doesn't matter how small you cut that film up, the entire image is in every little piece of that film. So the entire image is in one little portion of the film. And then also that same entire image is duplicated and repeated throughout the entire piece of film. So the phrase that kind of explains this is all in one and one in all. So God is the one and God is in all of us. and we are all in God. And if you think about a drop of water in an ocean, it's like if we are the drop of water that goes into the ocean, we actually don't just stay in one little spot of the ocean, we expand to fill the entire ocean. Just like that image on that holographic film expands to fill the entire piece of that film. It's in every little piece that gets subdivided. So that's the reason why they use the word holographic, is to go back to the old idea of the holographic film. The entire image is in all parts of it. So each of us would actually be the entire ocean that Lori was talking about. And if we take out any piece of that ocean, then every person who has ever existed is in that one little piece of that ocean. So you take one drop of water out of the ocean, you get a little bit of everything that's in that ocean. All in one and one in all.
Great
Analogy.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And you remember Shakespeare said, all the world's a stage. Remember that line?
Mm-hmm.
And we're merely players.
Yes.
Blessings, everyone, and Merry Christmas.
Merry
Merry
Christmas.
Christmas.
Brandon, you're ahead of us.
Thank you again, Lori. That was thought provoking.
Very wonderful, Lori.
Thank you. Thank you.
Very nice.
Thank you, all you wonderful prodigal children of God.
Yes.
It'll be greatest Christmas ever.
Yes.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry
Christmas.
Christmas.